Now the rest of the plan is simple. I fly to the moon. I shrink the moon. I grab the moon. I sit on the toilet. What?
It might be strange to hear, but for a long time, the first Despicable Me film was one of my favorite movies. As a kid, I was still developing my film palette, so different films came and left my top 10 pretty frequently. However, Despicable Me stayed up on that list for quite a while before being dethroned by the Lego Movie. This dethroning wasn't a simple case of a shiny new film passing by. No, for an even longer time, I grew to dislike the film, and not for the reasons you might think. I wanted to look back at my history with the movie, and what reflecting on my past opinions taught me about the craft of critique. It's hard to put into words what made Despicable Me appealing to me personally, mostly because I haven't watched it in a long time. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd likely attribute it to the appealing character designs, the thrilling action, and the commanding score. I think on a surface level, there's a lot of similarities between this movie and The Incredibles, which was another favorite of mine as a kid. I think the thing I latched onto the most was the concept of a story with a villain as the protagonist. While I'm sure stories like that are aplenty now, back when I was a kid, those stories were hard to find. I thought Despicable Me would be the film to finally capitalize on the concept. The more I stewed on the film, the more I began to resent what I saw was wasted potential, and directed my malice towards the film's actual focus, the relationship between Gru and his daughters. In my mind, the movie was bad because of what it failed to deliver me personally, and not what it was actually trying to say. The core error in my thought process was believing my personal tastes and opinions constituted as a proper critique. My opinions were valid, and maybe they even had some weight, but they weren't a critique. The core difference between a review and a critique is that a review is a relaying of opinion, while a critique is using opinion to guide an artist or a piece of art to their goal. You have to be focused on what the art or artists want to express and provide insight on how they are succeeding or failing that goal. My younger self falsely attributed my disappointments with the film as a proper critique with no real concern on what the movie actually wanted to say. If I had issues with the core dynamic between Gru and his daughters, a more constructive critique might explore whether that relationship is developed successfully or whether the themes of the film facilitate the development of the characters. I'm finding that a lot of critiques these days are far closer to reviews. People aren't able to distinguish their own tastes from the goals of an art piece. I think in order to truly critique, you need to step outside yourself and step inside the shoes of the art. While you don't need to love the thing you're critiquing, you should be invested in its success. Maybe one day I'll return to Despicable Me. Hopefully, I'll give it a fair shake this time.